or computers crashing.
Oh God.
Hi, Craig.
Craig
Yeah, that's
terrifies
Craig.
me.
Yeah. He'll probably crap out and be gone, so don't pay attention. I thought I had him muted. I'm sorry. Server
I'll mute him. Oh.
Yeah. My players like to hear him talk. When we use Alistair, and it's got a bit of a posh accent when they say it, and they love hearing him so much. And I'm like, it's just a means to an end, guys. he only has as much sapience as we give him for being an asshole and dropping the call. Like it's. So yeah, I guess we can just keep chatting and diving right in. This week on Hexgrid Hangouts, I'm joined by two cast members from the Starship. Shit, that'll get cut. Starfinder homebrew podcast, Emergency Power Podcast.
How's it going?
Hey.
So just so everyone knows, I have the GM Jeff.
Other way around.
Son of a
GM
bitch.
Adam over here.
My bad. I'm sorry. To my credit, I'm scooping you guys up with 6 episodes under your belt. So the GM,
Right.
Adam, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
And Jeff is a player. Who do you play?
I play Scriff Dovetail.
Jeff is the one I've had a little bit of conversation with on the internet. So
yeah,
thank you.
I'm a media outcast, and I refuse to go on there unless I have
hermit.
to. Yeah,
We're all
exactly.
hermits. I was elected as head hermit to venture
okay.
onto the internet.
Yeah,
I'm
we were gonna
definitely-
starve to death, and he had to go out and get food for us.
Yep. Look, we live in a society, guys. So I am definitely going to touch on that in a bit. So tell me a little bit about your show.
Yeah, sure. We got into Starfinder not long ago, and we were just having so much fun with it that we could totally do a podcast. We got a good group of guys here.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of dove right in because Jeff and I have been playing together forever. We like co-DM, we switch off and on, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And, you know, when it came to the whole point of the podcast, we thinking about, well, podcast should be this fun thing that people can sit down and enjoy, kind of charge up on. And so that's how like the emergency power network thing started. Sit down, charge up with us. So we just want to have fun with it, and we hope that listeners have fun with it too.
Yeah, and we try to keep it positive on the whole.
Yeah. That's why I'd say mostly clean podcast.
Yeah, it is mostly clean. What you guys are getting into is fascinating, and also before I get into that, like I really love the branding you guys do at the beginning, the plug-in sort of thing. Like I'm crap at that kind of thing, so I made up this name years ago, and I'm just shackled myself to it. And one day we'll do a hex crawl. But you guys immediately just have this presence, which I just ate up, and it's great. You guys are telling a homebrew story, so I'd like to kind of get into your origins. You two have been playing for a while. How long were you playing Starfinder all together before? And who had the idea to jump into content creation, basically?
Starfinder altogether, not even a year, right?
Okay.
No, that was pretty quick.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, but we've been playing other RPGs for a while. I actually went back. I did some research prior to this interview, and because I was curious, how long have I been playing tabletop RPGs? And my first purchase, I remember it. It was on DriveThruRPG, and I bought a copy of Exodus RPG, which it was supposed to be the official Fallout tabletop RPG, but the licensing fell through. There was some kind of snafu with them and Bethesda, and they had to drop the official licensing for Fallout, but they still released the game. It was a D20 based system, so like, D&D 3.5 type stuff. and it was called Exodus, and yeah, it was a little crunchy, I'm not gonna lie, but
As
it
we
was a
talk
lot of
about
fun.
Starfinder.
Yeah, well, Starfinder's got its own thing going on, but Exodus was fun in its own right, and I like the setting of post-apocalyptic. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we started off with that, and that was 11 years ago.
Wow. All right. Long time to keep a group together. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's changed through the years, but Adam and I have tried to have some game or another running most of the time. There was a dip because I moved from California to North Carolina a few years back, and that put a damper on a lot of games that we were in the process of playing.
Mm.
But we picked it up a couple years ago, I think, and started playing again. And one of those games was Starfinder.
Nice. And so you guys seem like the core, and you brought in. I'm sorry. Character names are easier for me. But
No worries.
So 5e, Scriff, and I know there's a third. Please.
Pawns.
Pawns. Oh, I should have had this written down. Yeah, God. Yeah, whenever I hear a like people's introduction to a contemplative in this system, whenever a player is one of them, I'm just like gripping my seat to just how much they're going to lean into just how fucking bizarre. There's going to be swears in here, guys. You can swear. So
it's the gigantic brain from Futurama.
Absolutely.
That's all I can think about.
Yep. So
it's having so much fun trying to think actually have the ability to do most things.
Zero physicality.
Other characters.
Yeah, it's just so good, and it's one of the many things I love about this system. It's just how bonkers you can get with player races. So yeah, you guys, you got all friends. You link up and you start playing together. And or was there like any sort of audition process? What's your guys' like? I want to get into the nitty gritty of how you guys got your stuff.
Well, I'm kind of the linking factor between most of them. In that I worked with Cooper, and he and a couple other of the people at the place I worked were like, we want to kind of hang out and get to know each other more. Adam, I heard you have DM'd before. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so we started playing 5e, and Cooper just has these really creative ideas. And so I thought he'd be a good guy to pull in for that. And Richard is a friend of Jeff's significant other, and she'd played with him for a long time. And we brought him in on another Starfinder campaign that Jeff and I are co-running. And he just has years of experience and role play understanding under his belt. So he was just this natural choice for it. Again, like Jeff and I have been doing this forever. So like, how many people can we get that have either a lot of experience or really unique takes on role playing? Yeah, it just kind of came together.
And not, for me and Adam, it's not just tabletop RPG. I just wanted to point out that in addition to the tabletop role-playing experience that we also have LARP experience, which we draw on a lot for our podcast. years and years.
Okay, so I've not participated in LARP at all. I know what it is, and I know that like a lot of hobbies, there's a misconception about it. Certainly, movies that portray it don't do it any favors. So, Can you give me an example of something LARPing brings into your show?
Yeah,
LARPing is very much about improv. Like you got to think on your feet because you're live in person with these folks, and you only have a set amount of time to get through everything. So it plays on a lot of the same skills that tabletop RPGs use. But the difference being you get to actually utilize some physical activity as well. But yeah, I feel like it's an inevitable progression for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Tabletop RPGs, like, oh, you like playing this character? How would you like to also hit people in the face with while playing your character?
it's definitely something I've been podcasting for 3-4 years, and I've only been playing tabletop games for maybe 5 or 6, and so I'm relatively new, and my players, most of them have decades on me, but and I've always like, as kids, we would play, we're Power Rangers, we're beating each other
Right.
up and stuff,
Sure.
and like, but like tabletop games, LARPing was like that forbidden. Ooh, that's a step too far. Once you're doing that, that's what you do. And now that I've been doing this, and podcasting has become who I am, for better or worse, like LARPing has just become like that thing. Like, I want to do it. I need to get into it. This is, you're right. It's a logical progression. And sitting here animatedly talking with my hands, playing these characters, I would love to just let loose and use that physicality in like a safe environment too. Like, I feel like finding
Absolutely.
groups of people who are like, this is a game, we're here to have fun, and like it's uplifting rather than like, nitpicking acting ability sort of thing. That's been kind of
Right.
a little sticking point for me of diving right in, because like I'm not the best actor. That's it's a reason why I
You got to
use
find the
this
right
medium.
group. Yeah,
Yeah.
all there's different LARP groups, right? And you got to find one that has a cast of people that you can jive with. We did LARP back in Southern California, and
Mm.
just naturally by the environment that we're in, there are a lot of people who are aspiring actors out there,
Yeah, we were
and
near Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
some of them get into LARP either through their interests or because it's a great way to practice improv or what have you.
Hmm.
And so I feel like that also really helped us step up our game, just being in the presence of these people in a non-judgmental uh, environment.
Hmm.
And that encouraged us to improve our game as well.
Yeah, it was really interesting because when I first came into it, Jeff brought me. I was just blown away by not only like the costuming that people had, but the fact that they completely immersed themselves and became an entirely different person. And not just
Hmm.
for a couple hours for a session or whatever, it's an entire weekend. And
Yeah.
the one we went to was like, you never are really out of character. So, you go to sleep, you wake up, you're still groggy. Guess what? You might get murdered as you're waking up. So you have to continuously be ready for anything. And
Yeah,
it's a
some
great place
LARPs
to
some
go ahead.
LARPs don't have a downtime. They are 24 hours for the time from the time they start to the time they end on the weekend.
Hmm.
Usually Friday night to Saturday late night,
Hmm.
maybe Sunday morning. And forgot where I was going with this.
No downtime.
Right. Yeah. So like people will come in the middle of the night into your cabin or your tent. Well, not your tent. Tent's off limits. But into your cabin, and they'll be like in full monster gear and
Hmm.
will like attack you at night. So you got to be ready at all times.
And I imagine when you join groups and set these events, you can have established ground rules as pertaining to that. Like, you don't have rogues going in like it's like free game. Like, there's got to be like some sort of
Yeah.
consent
Yeah.
Yeah,
between everyone.
A lot of it was, I want to, steal from this tent or whatever.
Hmm.
You go and you talk to the game runners about it and you say, okay, I went to this tent from this time to this time and I was looking for these kind of things.
Hmm.
And, then the players will also have a chance to interact with the situation so they can be like, I have these defenses going on or whatnot. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's a
Oh.
lot of fun and like immerses the heck out of you.
Hmm.
yeah, and talk about like nerdy activities that are social, especially
Hmm.
if
Yeah,
you're an
yeah,
extrovert. This is a place where you can go to just hang out with people who all love the same things that you love.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of my very favorite parts about it is, because you're going in to become a different character. No matter what things you have going on in your life. Maybe you're more of a shy person. Maybe you don't really like to talk about your interests or thing like that. You show up and you can display that kind of thing through your character and just have this buffer zone between your personality and what you're showing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very cathartic in a lot of ways.
I imagine it would be. I'm quite introverted, and I haven't really been in person social for literal years. Pandemic notwithstanding, it's just I'm comfortable at home. I'm cool with at home. My friends around the world are really cool online. So like but I'm very much that person where like if you tell me like a month in advance, like hey, we're all gonna do this and we're gonna hang out and have fun, I can do that. 10 minutes
Yeah.
after that time limit has ended, I am depleted. I need emergency power immediately,
Oh,
and I need to not be talked to for the next 4 to 5 days.
Sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's a draining thing for me. I'm not an
Yeah.
extrovert. I could best be described as an ambivert, but that's through a lot of practice at being outgoing, and it's not natural. But
Yeah.
that was kind of my same thing. Was I get done with LARP and I'm just exhausted. I sleep for half a day, and
Yep.
I need to recharge my batteries by being at home and like
Mm-hmm.
playing video games
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But it was a lot of fun, and I made a lot of good friends too.
Excellent. So
I
going
highly
back,
recommend it.
oh yeah, I like as you were talking, I was resisting the urge to peck on my keyboard, looking up for local ones. I could do it later when I'm editing, but yeah, it's like now that the pandemic is not over. I mean, full disclosure, like it's not.
It's not. We can
I
see the light at the end of the tunnel, but
Yeah,
it's still over there.
yeah, but still, like I have like a made up time in my head of when I'll feel safe. It's a lot further than everyone else's, it seems. But
Same.
once,
Same.
yeah, once that's gone and I can go grocery shopping without tightening in my chest, I will definitely sign up for some local stuff because I see it. I'm in Colorado, so very
Oh,
outdoorsy activity going on here. We have a quite profound LARP group that like really hams it up
yeah.
for the Renaissance Festival we have
Nice.
close to us. So like it's always like that urge has always been there, and I think like after a year and change of not having any, I think I'm ready to just jump in. So circling
You want
back
some
to
advice
oh
for
please
how to do your first LARP?
oh
Okay.
absolutely
The best tips I can give you if you're anyone
mm,
listening is going out to try your first LARP. One, bring lots of friends that you know, because you'll be more comfortable around those people that you know. You'll make new friends once you get there, but having a core group that you can hang out with is very helpful. Two, write your own story. Don't expect so the premise of LARP is you have a team of storytellers. They're essentially your GMs, and they will write plot for the event, and there will be an overarching story. But if you want to maximize your fun, make your own story. Have fun within your group with things that you can control that don't necessarily need GM input. You'll have a much better
mm-hmm.
time.
Wow, awesome, thank you. Yeah. um Wow, this was a great tangent to go down. Usually they crash and burn, but this one was delightful. That's relatively new to the system itself. You immediately jumped in. You've up to 6 episodes released, so you've been
Yeah.
entirely pandemic recording. So typically I'd ask like,
Yep.
how are you doing since the pandemic started? I don't have to do that with you guys. You guys have been living it since day one. With regards to this production, but tell me a little bit
And
about
yeah,
your story. Oh, go ahead.
we don't have a choice either with online versus local, because we've got two
Mm-hmm.
people in North Carolina, one in California,
Mm-hmm.
and one in Ohio.
Of course. Yep. Yep. Very good. I have me in Colorado, got a Texan, Wisconsin, and 2 Boston people. So like I don't really I had a group before the pandemic, and that once I once I saw bleh, once I started to take it seriously and it wasn't just fake news or what have you, I'm like, we're not meeting anymore, guys. We will see how things shake out. And that group just like in the podcast, they were only 10 sessions into their campaign. I'm like, no, not doing, like, I'm not going to, these people have kids and they aren't, they're laughing about it. So I'm like, no, that group's gone. The characters are alive and well, possibly. So I started this new group of internet people that I could, I don't have any risk now. So I am curious how other shows that I see, bigger shows than me, are now vaxxed up and meeting up again. And I don't think I'm going to go that route. I love having the internet as my casting casting list instead of, everyone has to be local and clog up my my office, my personal space to do this, when I can like reach out to my buddies in Australia and like, hey, if I move my time around, I love the flexibility that this has afforded ventures like this. We don't need to be in the same room breathing each other's sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like early on when Jeff and I were trying to keep a table running, one of our players moved away, and we were trying to figure out how to do like a hybrid of people in person and over the internet. But this was 8-9 years ago, so we didn't have the Discords and the Zooms and that kind of thing. So it was just completely undoable. But yeah, now that we have all this technology, especially in the pandemic, it's just boomed like crazy. We can pull in people who have, like you said, experience from different parts of the world, and it sounds like they're sitting in the room with us. Fantastic.
Yeah. So immediately when I saw you guys, immediately hooked into your story, and I don't want to spoil anything for people that I want people to like. This is someone who listens. Like my friends and most of my listeners know. Like Starfinder's, it's not the perfect system. It's maybe not the best system, but it's my favorite setting, and so I'm like all in on it. So that's why like I'll listen to multiple groups playing the same AP. I've kind of eased off of that. I'll choose like one, but like any homebrew podcast, it's not crack, but it is like so endearing to me that folks like you, like, yeah, this is a great setting and the stories that they tell are cool. I want to tell my own story, and just immediately your guys' one just lights my hair on fire. The stuff that you reveal in 5, the implications of the drift stuff, I listen at work, so like I legit stopped what I was doing at work. I'm not driving, so it's fine. But I just stopped what I was doing and I just stood there a moment, like, holy shit, they're doing this. You guys, like, the conceit of the game is, what it is, and then what you're doing, I'm like, is it time travel? Is it this? Is it? And it's just like whatever you're doing, I am like all in. And when you, Jeff, when you were like, hey, or whoever does the Twitter, I've chatted with Jeff on here a bit, and you guys on Twitter a tiny bit. So like they were like, yeah, we want to link up and do something. Like, yes, please. Like, okay, like I may have been doing this a couple years, and I don't know what the perception of my show is because I have severe lack of self-esteem. But like when someone's like, oh yeah, I want to do stuff with you, I am doing somersaults in my heart of like, they want to play with me, my bullshit.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm in the same boat. I'm seriously same spot.
Yeah. It's tough. Like in 2-3 years in, it's not any better. This is a lifetime condition I have. But like
it's called imposter syndrome.
Exactly. Yes. So like I've gotten better. Like I've when someone says they like something, I don't immediately like punch them. But like it's tough. And when the community is the tabletop Starfinder homebrew is kind of its own little niche community within a niche community.
Sure.
Like hell yes, let's link up. Hell yes, let's chat. I don't want to. I'll never like overcommit anymore. But like yeah, we can hang out. Yeah, you want to do shit? Fuck yeah, let's do that. So tell me a little bit about the basic conceit of your campaign so far, so people can stop listening to me hype it up, and you can tell me within your own words.
Sure. Yeah. So the big thing is I have never really run adventure paths. I've always been kind of a world builder since I was a kid. Even when I was like going to sleep, I'd lay down and just start building stories in my head. So when we decided to do this podcast, Starfinder has this great world that has a lot of core stuff going on, especially with the adventure pass, but it has a lot of area to expand on. And I wanted to find a spot that no one had really touched on yet and expand on that and have fun with it, play with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to talk about the story without giving away too much.
If
Tell
you're
me
fine,
more, Adam.
You can obviously share whatever you're comfortable with, but like 5 episodes in, if you want to talk a little bit about what you've revealed, like it's still like intro to the story. So like I just didn't want to take that out of your hands and let you dictate what you felt comfortable sharing. But yeah, you are absolutely going in an area that it's on my radar. One of my players says, I would like to explore this. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, let's just get out of these caves that we're in currently and we'll do that. But then hearing yours, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go there and I'm just going to let you guys do it. And then I'll just enjoy it through them, through you. And because what you're doing is just bananas. Oh, I love it.
So let's go ahead and we'll spoil the first 5 episodes. Anyone listening, if you haven't seen the first 5 episodes of Emergency Power Podcast, pause this recording and go watch that or listen to it.
Yes.
emergencypowernetwork.com. And then come back
in
and
6-7 hours and then hit play on this again.
I promise you it will not feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about it. I may leave the later episodes for people to listen to, but it starts off with, these main characters heading to the diaspora, and something goes terribly wrong. The next thing they know, they wake up on this planet. They had just jumped into the drift, so how the hell are they here now? And so they're trying to figure out what's going on, where are they, why are they here? So they have very little information to go off of, and they're just they are immediately besieged by goblins, and then have to flee into this domed city that's just decayed and ruined. And I try to imagine how my characters will feel as they're going through situations. I don't want to leave them so out to dry that they're just like, well, I don't even know what to do. I guess I guess I'll just die then. But I also want to do little breadcrumbs here and there, because a slow reveal of the story is where characters can actually express their emotion, their confusion, their frustration, their joy through their role play experience. And that's where I live. Those are the moments that I really love. Fortunately, our crew's pretty good at those moments and getting better all the time. But yeah, I want to say so much more, but
fair. No,
I just can't.
Yeah, it's so good. Like it's I'm nobody. I don't have wisdom. But whatever you're doing, you have a whatever equivalent adamantium mine on your hands. Like what you have, it's so rich. Like and if you turn on a dime and do something completely different, I look like an asshole. That's on me. But what you're doing is just it's good. It's hard hitting, and I cannot stress enough. You guys have a solid fucking premise on your hands. So you release every 2 weeks.
Yeah, every
other Saturday.
Okay. Good for you. Weekly releases are for the birds.
Yeah, we were thinking about it early on, and because I'm trying to, write as I go and build the world as I go, I just absolutely cannot do video editing, audio editing, writing, running.
Yes.
Yeah, this was a lot of new experiences for us outside of tabletop, just creating a podcast. And so with those challenges, we said, we'll start with every other week and see how it goes. And if we build up enough backlog, maybe we'll switch. But currently, it's every other week.
Okay, yeah, that leads to my next question. So, how far out are you recorded from where you're releasing?
We have
uh,
one backlog episode right
one,
now, but
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
we're gonna be recording two on our next
Hmm.
recording session. So then we'll be ahead by two.
yeah.
It's
It's
a
a
great.
bit tough with
Yeah.
how everyone's hours are for working.
Hmm.
Especially during the pandemic, it's kind of all over the place. So we just
Yes.
find like what days we can actually get a recording in, and any
Hmm.
other days that are like, okay, we could squeeze one more in there. We go for it,
Yeah.
you know?
Very cool. So, yeah, that's very common problem that a lot of us have, and that extra episode of backlog is going to feel so good. So,
Oh
but you
yeah.
mentioned
Yeah.
before we recorded that you wanted to talk about some of the challenges you were facing, like
Yeah.
getting this off.
Technical
So
difficulties.
yeah, please. They are my delight as someone who's been doing this a couple years. I recently lost a 3-hour interview with another
Oh,
Starfinder
Oh
homebrew
no.
podcaster, and I just seppuku comes to mind,
just
and
shrivel
Sure.
into a ball in the
I just,
corner and
yeah,
eat
I
an
just want
entire gallon of ice
I
cream.
want to turn in my microphone, hang up my Patreon badge, and just like, you know what, I'm not. Oh, I feel terrible, and I haven't told him yet. So if he's listening to this, and you know who you are, if you know who you are, I'm so sorry.
It's
Uh,
just like that meme. Lay down, try not to cry, cry a lot.
cry a lot. Yeah, I hate it. So tell me, make me feel better, and tell me some of the stuff you've fumbled over in your beginning times.
Jeff, go ahead.
So yeah, because I was the first. I
Okay.
was the first one to mess up. This was maybe episode 3 or 2.
I think it was
It was
two.
early. It was
Mm-hmm.
early. Uh, we started the episode, and it wasn't until we were about a half hour into the episode that I realized that my new key binding for toggling mute was muting the recording, and we had lost all of my first 30 minutes of audio.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we
Yeah.
had to start over.
The saving grace of that one though is because we kind of knew what was coming within the first half hour,
Mm.
everybody was warmed up, they felt more fluid, and so it actually came out sounding better the second time through.
Oh,
And
nice.
so that was great, but it still was a bit of a blow to have to stop, take a deep breath, be like, okay, once more with feeling.
But
Yep.
the hardest part of that was redoing the intro because we
Yeah.
try to keep it informal and loose.
Yep.
And like you think to yourself, like, do I tell the same joke again? Like, is or should I not? Would that feel
Yeah.
forced?
Yeah. Will the guys laugh the same amount, and I'll
Right.
know if it's a different laugh. Like I'll know it's forced if like oh
Exactly.
Yeah. Um,
wow, yeah.
the other one was a little bit more behind the scenes, and
Mm.
I have to decide if I want to go back and fix it. Uh, our first episode, because I hadn't really edited a whole lot to that point, especially when it comes to audio.
Mhm.
It's pretty rough to listen to, and it's only 6 episodes in. We're drastically better. We have better equipment. We understand
Mhm.
how to do sound editing a lot better,
Yep.
and like that's the first episode. That's the intro to the podcast. How many people am I going to lose because all of my s's sound like a punch to the eardrum? Yeah.
I will tell you, as someone who's been in the community a fair bit, almost every podcast has jumps and starts. What's the phrase? But like the first episode or two, typically a little rougher.
Sure.
Podcasts like the Tableverse, Southern Tomfoolery, they're all bigger podcasts than I, and they've like straight up say like, you know what, the first couple episodes I can't even listen to. Once we get to like 6 or 7, that's when we figure it out. So most people will understand, and just being upfront about it is carries weight. And
Yeah,
so
we talked about doing a recap once we get a little deeper in. So
yep.
it's like if you don't want to listen to these ear-shattering episodes,
Yeah.
that's just sound so terrible. Here's a recap for you.
We just need to get real actors to do like a dramatic reenactment of episode
Mm-hmm.
1.
Yep.
That would be fantastic.
But
If
just
anyone's
episode 1.
interested out there, please contact the Emergency Power Podcast.
Fantastic. That would be fun. Just like just overly dramatic. Like, here is a dramatic recreation. If you want to just jump right into it, but I know a couple podcasts that have done that. So before I took over GMing and when this podcast started, I was just a player and I was just in a Starfinder home game, and I knew about these kind of podcasts, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to force my thing onto other people. But they came to me, the GM came to me, and the players all agreed it would be really cool to turn this into a show. What we didn't know is the 6 months of recordings that we did on one Zoom recorder facing one direction was utter trash. Like a steaming dumpster. I was combining two different metaphors there. A
Steaming
dumpster
fire.
a dumpster fire of audio recordings. Players chomping on chips this close to the mic. Just ridiculous and such embarrassment that I still bear today. So when I took over GMing, when that group fell apart, I'm like, you know what? I've invested the money. I'm going to get better microphones. I'm going to get my own crew. I'm going to GM my own story. But there are still people out there who first heard of Hex Grid Heroes as, oh, it's that one that, I had a Solarian soundbite for Supernova, and it sounded awesome in edit, but to anyone with real human ears, it sounded like I put 2 nails next to your eardrums and then like majestically slid them in. Like it was I found the soundbite a couple months ago, and I'm like just flooded with that secondhand embarrassment, but I deleted it all, purged it all. So the only people that know about that were there, and the few that listened and gave up on us.
So only a few loose ends to tie up.
Right? Exactly. There are a couple podcasters that I don't really chat with much anymore because, like, they were very sympathetic, but then they just stopped talking to me altogether one day. I'm like, that's why I was dead to them, and there's no coming back from how bad some of that audio was. But so, yeah, I deleted it all. Got rid of all of it, started over, new crew, started with episode 1 with them. And, like, I go back to listen to...
Their loss, because your current stuff is fantastic, and I'm all caught up and I've really enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. That was all done, so you would all say that. Thank you for reading so well from your scripts that I emailed you.
Yeah, the checks in the mail, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Right?
Yeah. I'm sending you Doge coins. Those are things still, right?
Yes,
okay,
they are still a thing.
Right on. Topical. Hashtag.
Nice. We didn't date this episode at all.
But yeah, I appreciate it. I do feel much better. I don't cringe when I hit publish. It's all good now. But like hearing your stories, like everyone has those. Some people are luckier. Some people come at this with production experience already, and they kind of have a leg up, and that's good on them. But some of us have to fall and fall and fall and fall before we pick ourselves up. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did a couple of practice episodes before actually recording episode 1.
Oh boy, do we have to talk about those?
Yes, I think if we're on this subject, we need to talk about the first episodes, those that shall not be named.
If we have to.
So, Cooper had never played Starfinder at all before this podcast. Adam plays D&D 5e with him in a private game, but in order to get him familiar with the system and also to get us familiar with the new equipment that we're going to be recording with, we did 3 episodes. We called them like episode 0, and they went over like ground combat, skill checks, and space combat, so that Cooper could get used to all that. and then we could get used to recording. Oh boy. If you thought our episode 1 had some bad audio quality, oh, just you wait until like that 5-year anniversary when we release all of these.
Yeah, I wrote it in my will that after I die, they can be released.
Nice. Generous of you. Give the people what they want. I mean, stay alive, but you know, I'll take some solace in your passing that I have that treasure, because it's
Sure.
rough. I feel for you, and I do want to ask, how did you find? And I don't want to, well, first off, how did you find space combat? How are you guys doing with that?
We are split on that, Jeff and I.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, Jeff and I have talked extensively how to make that work more smoothly, because I tend to find it really slow and cumbersome. Like, it takes into account everything you'd want in space combat, but at the cost of action, you know?
Time.
Everybody gets one thing they get to do per round, and it's really limited on what they can do, especially in earlier levels. And my thought on it is, when you watch shows or movies like Star Wars and that kind of thing, half the time it's them flying around shooting lasers. The other time is jumping into the cockpit and seeing like the character reactions and stuff.
Very
and
fast
it's all
paced.
real fast paced, yes. And the combat in Starfinder is nothing like that.
No.
And so,
It's
as
like-
someone who wants the like momentum to continue, it kind of grinds to a halt, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I will agree with you there. I'm not as hard on Starship combat as Adam is, but it is really slow. I think the optimal time for a combat is somewhere around 45 minutes or 5 rounds to 6 rounds for a ground combat. Starship combat, though, that amount of time is like 3 rounds, and you haven't really done anything by 3 rounds in Starfinder Starship combat. Your shields regenerate, and you have just so much health that you have to punch through.
It's a
it
slog
really
fest.
slows it down. Yeah.
It is.
It's a war of attrition. So what we did was, well, Adam, you're the GM, you know all the rules.
Oh yes, the rules man. I don't actually know the rules as well as Jeff. Yeah, we're just looking at ways to make it so it's more fun and fast paced, because you know, you learn all the rules to your character and all the spells if they're a spellcaster, all the abilities if they're one of those high ability characters. And then you jump into Starship combat and literally no one knows what they're doing suddenly. So that slows everything down. And so we've been talking it over, and some of our ideas consist of like changing it so where it's you don't really have shields anymore, you just have a higher health amount, or you change how much damage it does. Or the most fun I think we had was in one of our private games. Jeff was running a Starship combat in which the 6 fighters only had forward arcs, and our ship had arcs that shot in every direction. So we were maneuvering in and out, and it became this chess game instead of
really
sit here,
important
shoot,
to win the
sit there,
piloting
shoot.
initiative.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And I agree with both sides. I've been playing this since the game dropped, and everyone is. So the rules aside, something I feel, and this isn't an indictment, Paizo, you can't cancel me. I'm a homebrew podcast. In their APs, they have one Starship Combat a book. So that is the only time most groups will ever do Starship Combat, that one time in a book. And it takes, depending on your groups, 1 month if you're really good, 6 months if you don't get to meet very often. So like the infrequency makes it to where you don't retain the knowledge. And when you get people like in a home game, when I have like if I had all afternoon to play, I would love to just have a strategic slugfest battleship take place in the stars. But in a production, I like to keep my episodes an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I got to keep
its own game.
Exactly. So, like, personally, I like the no shields thing. I had it in my head. I haven't implemented it in any fashion, but I have it in my head that there's going to be a lore thing where ship shields are either practically impossible to get, or some bullshit Star Trek thing where the shields are actually killing microbial life forms in other planes of existences. Like,
Nice.
I thank you. I love Starship Combat for what it is. Like, what you're doing is amazing. What all the stuff you're able to do is stuff that I would want to be able to do. Like, if it was a video game, I would love to have as much options.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
as I do
when
with Starfinder.
when you think back about a session you just had that was 3 hours of spaceship combat, in your mind's eye, you can see it happening in about 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so like all that fun compacted into that little bit is just
Yep.
it's stretched out for so long. And yeah,
Yes.
it's very comprehensive. It is about as good as you can possibly do spaceship combat, but it's
One thing that
rough.
we tried to do, or we talked about, what we haven't implemented was actually making Starship Combat feel more like an episode of Star Trek, where we're zoomed in really close and we keep, rather than zooming out focus for Starship Combat and we're looking at the ship, we keep it zoomed in and we're still looking at the characters. And they still get to perform their Starship actions, but we would probably condense it down to about 3 rounds, being enough to let them do everything, right?
Sure.
But this would allow us to keep the tension and the drama if the gunner can only see what's outside of their viewport, and if the science officer has to actually work to relay that information.
Yes. Action to transmit data. Action to study data. Not that kind of data. The actual data being gathered. Not
Absolutely. Like, imagine if it was a necessary action to scan a ship before you could really target them, because the shields just, you can't penetrate them unless you have their energy signature. So you have to, in one round or another, go and scan them,
Yep.
and then transmit that data. So it's something we're playing around with, but we haven't implemented yet, to keep the Starship Combat interesting for a podcast.
Yeah. Like RP is, like I said earlier, super important. And when I'm playing a game in combat, I'm always throwing out lines or how my character is feeling in the moment before he gets attacked or whatever. I want that same thing in Starship Combat. I want there to be emotional impact when you miss or don't miss. So when it's this thing where you wait 10 minutes for your thing to come around, you roll your dice, you miss. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just wait another 10 minutes. Like, so we're really trying to adjust it.
It makes Starship Combat a little bit more like how I imagine actual dog fights, right? In modern times, a couple of shots is gonna cripple your ship potentially. So it makes it each shot and each miss a lot more impactful.
I completely agree. Yeah, and I would I'm gonna be we've done one practice with this current group. I've done a practice Starship Combat off the record. Because I was a little worried. The previous group, all they wanted to do was, I had one guy that really wanted to fly, and everybody else, they only wanted to shoot guns in Starship Combat. So I'm like, yeah, we can play it like that. It's our game. We do what we want. But like, that wasn't much fun for me as the only Star Trek fan in the group. Like, they just wanted to run and gun. I mean, literally.
Sure.
So with this group, with the current group, I'm like, what stations? I got 2 rogues, a fighter, and a mage, if we want to simplify down their class roles. So like the mage doesn't have a lot of skills like that, but the magic officer thing can do fun control buffs and stuff like that. The soldier gonna be a great gunner. The one of the rogues is more bard than rogue, and he'll be great for I have all these support things and one fighter. So I'm like, you know what, I want to zero in on this and make sure each of them has impactful roles in Starship Combat, and it's not just like a submarine movie that is taking it too literally. It's like you know, playing with it, haven't implemented it into an actual episode, but I'm there. Like, they are about finished where they're at. They're, you know, sessions, 3 to 4 sessions away from being out of these caves and into space. And I'm very much, I mean, this is a spoiler, I'm throwing a Starship Combat at them to, like, you know, they're gonna have to do it. And I'm just like racking my head. Some of the ideas you gave are real good too. I might steal them.
Go
but
for it.
just finding like the right thing, because I want to be true to the system. I want to be true to the game, but I also need to be entertaining just as much.
Yes.
Because then
100%.
people I've heard other podcasters say, they've had listeners say they'll like straight up skip an episode of Starship Combat in Starfinder, and that's terrible,
Yeah.
because this
Yeah.
system offers this beautiful thing, and just some of the bad publicity and bad experiences have completely ruined it. So I hope.
I mean, I know podcasts that have taken 2 episodes to record one Starship Combat.
Yep.
It's a problem.
Yep. It's a problem for like you know, we're more or less ambassadors to the system. If I hear a podcast dogging it, just spending an hour and a half to do 3 rounds of Starship Combat, and the entire time they're throwing things at the table, you hear them grunting, like, that's not fun. That's not even entertaining. You're just being
Right.
bitter, and like, you know, I'm not beholden to Paizo whatsoever, but like, I'm not gonna drag my feet and have a little tantrum. Like, I'm going to find other ways. As a performer, that's what we have to do, is find ways of making it interesting.
Yeah,
That's the beauty
system,
of being a homebrew group.
Yep.
Yeah, the system itself is, as I look at it, kind of a ball of clay. It's formed in some ways, and that gives you structure, and then you kind of tweak it and move it around to turn it into what you envision it to be. So, you know, Paizo's stuff is fantastic, and I love their system. And I just want to make that even better, give more people a fun, different experience than what they might find in the books.
Exactly.
That applies to any RPG rule set, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Anytime you've got a book of rules, you know, they're more like guidelines anyway.
Nice. Excellent. So I don't really take notes for these. These are legit just supposed to be hangouts where we just have conversations, and the tangents have been great. Your podcast, like, I am a very big soft spot in my heart for homebrew podcasts. So you already had a huge leg up, just by saying, like, we're not following an AP. Hell yeah, let's go. So you are, like, we are very close to where you're at with the recording, so that you don't have like I have evil diabolical things you just haven't heard yet. Haha. But
I have evil diabolical things that you guys haven't
They're
heard
just
yet.
in his head still.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like, when I talk to Jeff, I'm not talking to a guy who's lying. Like, oh yeah, this is where we're at. Like, there may be things that happen, but like people that I talk to that I have 6 months of backlog, and I'm like, how do you have conversations?
Sure.
Like, I once had a very long backlog, and people were like, oh, I love it when your character did this. I'm like, my character's kind of one note. Could you tell me exactly what I did?
Yeah, how long ago was this?
Yeah. Like, re-listen to the episode. So it's nice.
Hopefully
that
you haven't
guys,
died since then.
At
Got a new
one
character.
point.
Which character is this?
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago that happened for a podcast I was a guest in. They were like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. And I said, is this when I got wings or when I got a motorcycle? I never get either, but because I needed them to explain to me what it is that I did that they like so much. I'm not up on all my listening of my own stuff, let alone stuff I actually want to listen to. So like, it's nice that you guys, it's got to be a little tense, like, oh, I got to get this edit done.
Yeah.
Oh
Or
yeah.
it's late. So that's nice that you are keeping it a little close, but I totally understand the pressure you must be under.
Yeah, we're trying to get at least a few out, so we have that buffer zone. But yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna get to the point where we have 6 months out. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, we like to keep it too fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good problem to have, is keeping it fresh. So it's all right there. So that's about all I really had to cover. Is there any fun stuff you'd like to share about your pod that you feel comfortable sharing, or anything you'd like to chat about? I got time, but we can start to tie this off if you guys don't have anything else.
Adam?
All I can do is throw some teasing out there. Like, I have some really interesting stuff. I'm trying to shift away from just the regular combat, and I'm trying to make it more interesting. So be ready for fun stuff like that. And I, of course, have so many more fun reveals.
Yeah, like your chase scene was fun. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, changed it up from combat to they have to do actions. Like, every time you get around a corner, you have to go left, forward, right. This happens over here. This happens over there.
That was just last episode. You had that chase. Like, that was amazing. I meant to message I'm that guy who's listening in the middle of the night, and I will message in whatever capacity I have access to the people. Like, oh my god, you did this. This is amazing. I'm gonna start doing that a little more probably because it was already great, but then you did this very cinematic chase that isn't exactly chase rules, which makes it even more exciting for me who knows the rules.
I was so stressed out.
Oh, it was so good. Like, I didn't feel it was scripted at all. But like, if someone who didn't know, like it seems like they knew where they're going. Like, no, there was difficulty. There were consequences to the actions made. Sliding across the hood is always a good move, and I'll die on that hill. It was a very, very good scene. So just kudos again to putting this system through its paces and making it
Adam
enjoyable.
revealed to us after that episode was recorded that he had like the area mapped out. So he wasn't just sending us to like a railroaded destination. The way that it came out was how he had laid out the environment.
Yeah, it was a literal labyrinth that whenever they decided something, it could loop around, it could come to a dead end, they could find something interesting. So I really wanted to give something fun after I know our first real big combat was a little lengthy. So I wanted to do something to like throw energy into it. And as I mentioned before, I'm not as big of a rules person. So I did my own chase rules.
Yes. Brilliant. No, it was great. So yeah, that's dynamite. So all right. Please, everyone, if you stuck around, these guys are great. Great characters, great voices. Like, you guys are from different areas, and like you can really tell. Like, I'm not shitting on anyone's podcast, and definitely not a Starfinder one. But there have been podcasts I listened to in the past where they're all childhood friends, and they all basically sound the same. And it's terrible trying to pinpoint character voices. But you guys, each of your characters have your player characters have distinct voices and accents. I've never heard the word heuristics more in my life since I started listening to your podcast. So thank you to 5E for that. Is Cooper 5E, or is that...
That's Richard.
Richard. Thank you, Richard, for just primo use of the word heuristics. I hear I get a tingle. Like, he gets it. He gets
yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do if I had to have as big a vocabulary as Richard.
Right. Excellent. So yeah, check them out. All great. It's not a month-long commitment to catch up. Just a long-ass weekend, and you're good. You're there. And thank you both for hanging out with me so much. It was a blast to get to chat with you all.
Yeah, thanks for having us. That was great.
It was great.
Anytime you want to hang out again, recorded or not, let me know.
Oh, definitely will. Cool. Excellent. And so that's it for Hex Grid Hangouts this week. Stay tuned next time. Same Hex time, same Hex channel, Hex Grid Heroes.